Now, this episode I actually enjoyed. And if they keep on this momentum, then this is going to be the version of Sex and the City that I think we all came back to see, where they are women of a certain age dealing with the issues that women of a certain age would actually deal with. Nothing that's forced or um, made up or perceived to be the issues of a woman of a certain age. Um, so, where do we start? I'm going to start with Charlotte. As annoying as Charlotte is, um, I thought in this episode she really showed some open mindedness, some maturity as she dealt with her daughter Rose deciding to call herself Rock or whatever the name was. And I really liked the scene where she and Harry went to the school to talk to them. Um, and they made, or Harry, I should say, made such valid points. Like, she's 12, she's our kid. Like, how dare you tell us how we should refer to her, or how dare you allow her to make a decision like that and not bring us into the loop? That whole conversation made me very uncomfortable. The way the two, I don't know, the school officials were talking, the way they kept referring to Rose as they. And it's like you almost just kind of cut the parents out of this conversation. The kid decided she wanted something and you were just all in. And like they said, she's 12. We've all been 12 years old before. We know how that age is. You have all these different thoughts. You're hormonal, you're changing. And nobody is able to make a real life decision at 12 years old. And that's why there is an age of majority. That's why you have to be 18 before you can enter into any contracts and considered an adult and all that other stuff. Because when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, shit, 16, you don't know anything. And I'm not here to make a social commentary about transgender life and pronouns and all this other stuff. But what I do think was very unfortunate is that they allowed Rose to make these unilateral decisions without her parents' involvement. And I believe everybody should have a voice and all this other stuff, but come on, she is a minor. I'm sure she's going to a private school. So if the check bounced one week or they didn't get the check, they wouldn't be going to Rose asking her, where's your tuition this month? They would be going to her parents. So if you can go to her parents for her financial responsibilities and concede to them and all those type of things, then you need to concede to them when she makes a statement like this. And you guys can't just jump on board because she said that this week she wants to be referred to as Rock and she wants to change her pronouns. That made me very upset, and I'm really glad that Harry held a hard line, basically because it's bullshit. It's just, but anyway, so I'm going too deep into that storyline, but what I liked about it is that it's real. I think that people who have children who are of that age right now are probably having similar conversations, or if it's not their child, they have a kid in school who's coming home and saying, my friend who used to be a girl is now wants to be referred to as a boy, and all these other things. And these are conversations that parents have to have with their kids. So I thought that was good. I thought that gave this some substance, because Charlotte has been very surface and kind of silly and bubbly. And I think this made it a little bit more real and grounded, and it opened the door for a real conversation about how we are, as a society, are responding to situations like this. So yeah, that was good. Check. Carrie and the hip surgery. When I saw the preview last week, I was a little miffed because I thought they were just going too far. I was like, so what now? She needs a hip replacement because she's 55. Like, that's ridiculous. Now you're going too far with this. Then I had to stop and thought about it for a minute. And I was like, I'm a woman. I'm 46. Last year I had to have back surgery. And things have been changing for me physically over the last couple of years. And I'm middle-aged. I'm not old. So yes, these things do happen over time. And I think because the show did such a big time jump, and because they mashed so many things in all at one time, it did seem like they were doing too much by casting them as these old women, the gray hair and all these other things. But some of these are real life issues that women of a certain age and women who are middle aged will deal with. And, Carrie has worn, look, I can hardly wear heels anymore. And I am 10 years younger than Carrie is in the show. She's worn heels throughout Manhattan for a very long time. It's not unforeseeable that she might have some hip issues, even if they said it was congenital or whatever, but that, she might have some issues. So, given that, I was able to kind of digest that storyline a little bit, and it didn't feel like pandering to me. So, um, that was cool. Seeing her with Charlotte and Miranda and in the hospital and having to pee and her friends being there for her, like that's just all real life stuff. I mean, if you've anybody who's had a major surgery will know, you have to set aside your humility and all these other things, and it can be very disarming experience. So it's understandable that we saw that, because that's actually what it looks like. When somebody has to help you to the bathroom, to help you pee and all these other things, you're very vulnerable. So I thought that was authentic. There's something else about Carrie. Oh, this is the first time we've seen her, the brownstone. We know she lived in the brownstone. We know she lived on the second floor because she was always looking out the window, but we never saw what the lobby looked like. So that was cool. And at first I was like, well, where is she going? I was like, I don't even understand, because I had never seen it before. So that was really cool that they showed that piece when she was walking in with, I believe her name is Seema, the real estate agent. And you see that they're starting to develop a friendship, which I think is good that they're taking it slow. And it seems like it's something that's real and that, it's happening organically. What else with Carrie? All right, so Carrie's story is going to tie into Miranda's in a big way. Miranda, now this is where I think this reboot is starting to take a turn. If we stay on this road, I think this is going to be really good. Before I go into Miranda, I want to touch on Samantha really quickly. So we saw that while Carrie was all drugged up after her surgery, she was speaking freely on her podcast, and she mentioned a story that involved Samantha. Charlotte saying, maybe you should let her know because you're talking about her or whatever. So she texts her, she let her know. Samantha responded to her. They had a couple of back and forths, and then she just kind of went dark on her once Carrie said that she missed her, which was very sad. But we know it had to go that way because Kim Cattrall is not going to be in the show anymore, so she can't be any more involved in this. But I need to understand something. What happened? I know that they said in the beginning that Carrie fired or let Samantha go because her career was moving in a different direction and that Samantha was very upset. That just doesn't sound like the Samantha we knew. Like, Samantha had very thick skin. She was a professional. She would understand something like that. I can't imagine what would make her just shut down on Carrie and the rest of them like that. That's not the whole story. And I don't know if they're just throwing that out here and we're supposed to just eat it because it just makes it simple, or is there more to this and we don't know and it's going to come up later? Like, did Carrie do something? Because it feels like Samantha's reaction would only be warranted if Carrie really did something to her. I'm just not buying this, we had a business disagreement. Even if Samantha moved to London, just like when she moved to LA after the series ended, she was still in New York every weekend or whatever. She was still very active. So this just from the storyline point of view, and I'm not talking about the actress Kim Cattrall, I get that, but they need to do a better job of explaining why their friendship went south, because you can't have us spend 6 seasons with these women, 2 movies. I don't know how much time span this is, maybe 15, 20 years of that type of friendship, and then just tell us that they had a falling out and that was the end of that. To the point that Samantha wouldn't call her after Big died. Something's missing there. And I don't know if it's going to come in later, but right now it's just not enough for me. And I'm feeling like something's missing. So that's just an aside. I just wanted to bring that up. Now let's go on to the storyline. So Miranda. So we saw that it looks like she had been drinking a lot since the beginning of the season. And, that her and Steve, or their relationship is just more like a friendship. They're not having sex. Another aside, I hate that girl who's her Brady's girlfriend. This girl practically living in her house, calling Miranda by her first name, going in the fridge, sleeping over, getting delivery. I mean, the whole thing makes me sick. And I know that that's how some of these new parents parent, but come on. But now that I saw this episode and I see how unhappy Miranda is in her life in the totality, it makes sense. Because I think when you are sad, depressed, and she might be depressed, and you feel like you have no control over your life, you kind of give up everything. And it might be a situation where she just threw her hands up and was like, I don't even have the energy or the capacity to fight this. Um, Everybody's here doing what they want to do, and I'm just existing. I don't feel like, this is my home, this is my life. And we know that Miranda was always a control freak. She was very regimented. She had a structure. She was very much in control. And we thought that she let all that go when she and Steve got married. But if you spend 40 something years of your life like that, it doesn't go away. That is still who you are. You adjust, you make concessions, but I can see how somebody like Miranda, who is a control freak, would be so overwhelmed and frustrated by the fact that her life is turned upside down. The husband, the kid, everything that comes along with, raising a young man, her job. And I think she might have just thrown her hands up, and that's why she turned to drinking. And like she said, during the pandemic, everybody started drinking. And somebody, one of the viewers, also said that, okay, this whole idea of her becoming an alcoholic makes sense because a lot of people drank more during the pandemic, and it's a slippery slope. We know that. So that's one thing, which is true. And then if you couple this with the fact that she's not happy, I can see how you are now drinking to just numb yourself. And if she's not an attorney anymore, or she's not practicing anymore, and she has no 9 to 5 where she has to be, I can see how it becomes a slippery slope where you are just kind of coping and numbing yourself all day long with alcohol. And it sounds like that's what she's doing. So we see that her and Shay, Carrie's podcast boss, are getting close. We all see where this is going. I mean, it started from, when they met each other at the funeral to, the comedy show, and it's been building up to this thing where you can tell that something's going to happen. So obviously, they start drinking tequila, they're smoking pot, one thing leads to another, and they have some sexual interactions in Carrie's kitchen while Carrie is asleep, which Carrie sees. I thought that scene was amazing. It was like the real of friends calling each other on their shit, not just saying, not telling people what they want to hear, just being real about this. Like, listen, hey, A, you're married. B, that's my boss. C, what the hell are you doing? And, asking her about the alcoholism thing. Is it possible that you are an alcoholic? Because, Charlotte has brought it to our attention. Let's have a real conversation like real grown women friends would have. And I thought that that's exactly that was. And, Carrie held her accountable. And then Miranda broke down and said she was unhappy. She hates her life. One thing she did say, she's hated it since the beginning. I don't know if that was just an outburst or if she really meant that. Maybe she never really wanted to get married. This was never really what she wanted. And all this time she had been just kind of playing along because, Steve was a good guy and they had the kid and all sort of stuff. But that was really sad because I think there's so many people who feel like that and just can't admit it, are afraid to admit it. And what they do is they numb themselves, be it with alcohol or drugs or, any other kind of indulgence or addiction. I mean, it could be as benign as overspending or shopping. You have to do something to soothe yourself at the end of the day. And some of those soothing techniques are healthy, and some aren't. But nobody can just sit and suffer in pain and in silence. You have to do something. And so this is how Miranda's doing it. Now, do I think she's a lesbian? I don't know. I know that in real life she is, and I don't know if they're trying to infuse this into that because Cynthia Nixon is one of the executive producers. But I don't know that what do y'all think? I don't think she's a lesbian. I think she just wants to be seen as something other than a wife and a mother, and maybe with Shay she gets that. I don't know. I'm still trying to dissect that. Yeah, I don't know, but it was really heartbreaking to hear how unhappy she was, and to have friends that are so close to you and they're just not aware of how unhappy you are, and the fact that if Carrie's her best friend and Carrie had no idea, that means that Miranda's been stuffing all of this down and suffering in silence. And that's sad. Um, yeah, so it was really, really good. I thought these were some really relevant issues, that are things that everybody, thinks about, talks about. I think people of a certain age deal with. And I like that they are taking it in that direction, so that these are episodes that we can unpack and really, like, pull apart the layers and dissect this, as opposed to just making fun of it, or, talking about how bad it is. Yeah, there's still a lot of those tropes and the wokeness and all that crap going on in there, but excuse me, I have to cough. But now it sounds like we're getting to the meat of a storyline that we can all sink our teeth into. So of course there's the humor, but this is the Sex and the City I think that we all know and love. The first 2 seasons of the show were very lighthearted and fun, and watching them run around the city in Cosmos and heels and stuff and Manolos. But I think it's like season 3 when it got real, that when we started to see like the dynamics of their relationship with each other, and their respective relationships. That I think when people truly fell in love with this story because they saw themselves in it, and it was something that they could identify with. And I think that's what's been missing for the first 5 episodes of this season. It just seems like a bunch of slapstick comedy, and now we are getting into the meat of it. So I was impressed with this episode. And I was going to continue to watch anyway, because like I said, I've been watching this since 1998 or whenever the show came out. And I'm a loyal fan, and I definitely want to see it through. But now we have something to talk about. So that's my review, and I'm looking forward to next week. And I just want to know what you guys think. And just drop down in the comments and we'll talk about it.